What's good, y'all? It's me, Raymond Acosta, back again in an unusual time during the week and actually during the day. I'm back with Eric Judah. What's up, E?
What's up, Raymond? How you doing?
Not so bad. We're here. We coming together. It's Wednesday. We in the middle of the day, and we had to pull up because we have a guest, and I'll give you a little bit of a background here on how he ended up getting on the show. But wanted to introduce to you Mr. Conrado Casalo.
What up,
He's up
y'all?
top there. And basically, so let's just hop right into this thing. The reason why we're getting together here is because I wanted to make sure that we get Conrado on the show, and I wanted to accommodate his time and then also Eric's time and everything like that, because we got such busy things going on in the week, chopping, editing, and trying to make this thing grow. So basically, if some of y'all remember, and if you've been following on our IG and also on the YouTube episodes that we've had, What's Good episode 4, I think, is when was it 4E, or maybe it may have been 5.
Might have been 5. Yep.
Might have been 5. One of the chop ups that I did on Insta was we were talking about, I think it was Halloween, and it led to Mabuhay, and then we were talking about, hey, what's going on with the DFWs, and I basically called out the folks around the DFW area, looking specifically for the Pinoys around, because I couldn't find any. I'm over in Fort Worth. I see onesie twosies, but there's no community, and that's basically what I'm looking for. So turn around maybe a few hours here and there, I get a hit up from I think it was my son. It was like, hey, somebody actually commented, and I think Conrado, I think you were tagged on the post.
Yeah,
and
from
then you
Omar.
popped in. Yeah, from Omar. Episode 2 submission. Go peep that out on the YouTube episode 2. He's one of our pimpin' submissions. Submitter of the week. Can't miss that one. But he actually tagged Conrado and said, hey, where you at? And so I looked at it and I was like, hold on, man. I know this guy. He's from Seatown. So it's like so we're over here trying to figure out, I guess, on my end here, since I'm in the Fort Worth area, I hit him up on the side, and we started talking, and he has pretty much the same story that I have as far as moving here. And then we're going to get into that, and we're going to get into what he's been doing here, and how we can further connect and push our brand, basically, to at least the DFW area, to get us a little bit known and do some collaborations. I started looking through you and your wife's activities and how you're so active in the community over here, and I was very surprised, and it's like, hey, there's actually something going on here, and we want to be involved if you allow us to. So, Conrado, as far as your situation and how you got here, give us a quick background. How long you been here? Where you at?
So, we actually moved here last year, June 21st. So we've been here for a little bit over a year. We came from Seattle, and it's funny because you were like, do you remember me? I'm like, yeah, you're Maria's brother.
I know we ran close in parallel, but never really. We were like interchanging lanes here and there. We exchanged a few, like, props, daps here and there, and I was like, okay,
yeah, but you were a lot more buffer before, though.
Before
I don't know, because you're wearing a t-shirt, and
I didn't walk around with no shirt on.
Now,
yeah, much leaner.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. So that's what I figured. You probably like cut down. But anyway, let's go back to the story. My mom actually passed away in December of 2021.
Okay.
And for like the last few months before that, my wife was actually having this urge as she needed to get out of Seattle, but she didn't know where she was gonna go, right? But she felt like something was leading her. Then my buddy from Seattle that moved to Prosper came to the memorial.
Okay.
And started talking to my wife and was like, hey, Texas, they need more, entrepreneurs like you, like more Filipinos, more, this and that, right? And she's like, everything that he was saying is pretty much what she needed to hear to confirm. So I don't know, you know Nate, Big Boys, Filipino food truck.
Yeah,
Nate.
yeah.
So we were at his house, and she was like, we have an 8-minute drive home. We got to decide in 8 minutes if we're going to move to Texas or not.
Wow.
And
wow.
I said, let's do it. And she was like, really? I was like, hey, I was like, if God is pushing you to go to Texas, if he's urging you to go there, because she's pretty prophetic, I said, let's just do it.
Wow.
And, she's had her pixel parlor for her business for a few years. over there, and she was getting clients like all the time, right? People started to know who she was, and I was in real estate since 2016, so you know what, 5-6 years, and I was getting a lot of like referrals and B backs. So for us to just halt everything and say, okay, let's start all over, it's not like we were getting job transfers to Texas, but we just knew that, hey, something is making us move here. 1 week later, we actually met this guy who from Clubhouse. Remember Clubhouse? And during COVID, no one could go anywhere, so everybody was on that app Clubhouse.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
Yeah.
I do remember that.
So she used to have this Filipino group on Clubhouse with like Filipinos all over the country, and they would have like these weekly Pinoy discussions. Well, one of them was a realtor from Dallas. So we became Instagram, followers, right? We like each other's posts, but never really talked to each other. So when we moved here, we're like, hey, we just got here to Dallas. Where are all the Filipinos at? And we had lunch with them, and he's like, hey, you know what? There's no Filipino community, but I'm going to this event tonight. And my friend's the guest speaker. If y'all want to meet some Filipinos, I could introduce you to him. So we're like, all right. So we go to this event, but when we get there, it was a bubble tea shop. There was no event, and his friend was not the guest speaker. His friend had an idea. His friend was speaking about an event that he wanted to throw in October. Right. So you got to remember, we get there, we get here June 21st. So I think this was like June 27th, a week after we get here. We meet up this guy, Mark Sampello, and he tells us, hey, man, I got this big idea, to throw an event for the Filipino community. And it's going to be in like 3 months, right? 3-4 months, whatever it is. We're like, okay, what else? What do you have so far? He goes, no, this is just the initial meeting.
Oh my God.
Right. And so after 2 hours of listening to this guy, I was like, this guy pretty much wants to throw a piece of Sanayon here in DFW, right? That's what I was thinking in my head. And so my wife Abby, she's a brand designer, so she ended up like 2 weeks later, she's like, let's call it Lone Star Palenque. Lone Star for Texas, Palenque for Philippines, which Palenque means market, right? And he wanted to throw a Filipino market. Am I getting ahead of myself?
No. Keep rolling, man.
You go.
Okay. I'll just tell you the story how this event happened, right?
Okay.
So for the next 2 weeks, she finally came up with the name, and then she went to work. She started to design it, to brand it. We had the vision board, like the mission statements, like everything. We were building it like a business, right? And we had our first IG post on July 15th, and all it was just a logo. And so we had a goal to raise $12,000, for the event, have 100 vendors, and have 2,000 people in attendance.
Wow.
And people were like, whoa, how are you guys going to do that? Like, we just moved here, right? Like, we don't know anybody.
So this is back in 01, right? Is that what you're saying? So this was back in 01. You said, I just kind of want to get
this was
timeline.
Last year.
This was last year.
Yeah.
Oh, damn. Okay.
Yeah. So we just moved here, and a week later, we're voluntold to help throw this event in a place where we know nothing about, right? And DFW is big. It's not like Seattle, where Seattle is, you got the city of Seattle. No, it's like you got Fort Worth, you got, like all these different metroplex. It makes Seattle look really, really small.
Tiny. Yeah.
And there's no Filipino community center in DFW. In Seattle, we have like the one in Algona, the one in Bainbridge, the one in Tacoma, I think, and the one on Othello. Right, so there's 4 Filipino community centers, and we're like, how is there none here in DFW? And the whole event was to raise funds. Like, our goal is to raise $2.2 million to build a Filipino community. That's community. That's just the start. And I said, okay, where are all the organizations at? So then we started to intrude these board of director meetings with the leaders of these different Filipino organizations, and we were telling them our goal, our mission. Even though they support us, they still doubted. Because they're like, you're lucky if you can get 10 vendors. They're like 100 like vendors and community partners. They're like, you're lucky if you can get 500 people to attend, because it's such a short amount of time of 3 months. They're like, Filipinos here are different than what you guys are used to. They're like, they kind of like, they're cliquish. They kind of keep to themselves. Like, they don't gather like pisos sanayon. That's what they were trying to tell us, right? Not in
Hmm.
those words, but that's what they were trying to get at. They're like, we don't want to discourage you, and if you're trying to raise $12,000 for this to produce this event, they're like, you're lucky if you could raise maybe 5,000, and just think of it as the 7,000 is going to come out of your own pocket. You're going to have to, invest it, but you always have next year. They're like, don't get discouraged if it doesn't end up the way you want it, but you have next year. So we're like, all right. We just kept moving and we kept going. We started looking for performers, like the Filipino dancers, the musicians.
Mm-hmm.
And then 3 weeks before the event, we had 5 vendors, and everybody was getting scared because there was only like 6 of us really that was planning this whole thing, right?
Mhm.
And most of us just pretty much met at that bubble tea shop, like
So
they knew of each other,
so wild.
right? The only person that knew everybody was Mark, but Mark didn't know us because we just moved here. He just met us. So then vendors started coming in. And then we started getting artists to perform, like the Filipino dancers, the Filipino singers. We started getting a car show, right? We're like, okay, who do you guys know here that have Filipino cars? So we had, had like the regular Honda Civics and stuff that are souped up, right? Because we're like, let's go attract their people. We started going to the different universities. Like I called it, we went on tour.
Mm-hmm.
And we started talking to all like the FSAs, like the Filipino student associations, right? And then we started like talking to all the nonprofits that were like, Filipino nonprofits, like getting them to come on board. And then all these vendors just started coming in, and we didn't raise 12,000. We actually raised 20,000, right?
Yeah, boy.
But check it out. We thought it's gonna cost us 12,000, but it cost us 20,000. So we profited $85 out of the whole thing,
Oh my
that
God.
we were trying to raise. But we knew that the first year was just to bring that awareness.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
sure.
Like
Get
we
the
didn't
buzz
expect
going.
to make a whole bunch of money. We wanted to bring an awareness and to show and fill the need in the Filipino community. Like we need a center, because if we had our own center, we would have to spend all that money to produce that event. It could have happened in the center.
Yeah.
And when they said we could only have like 100 or 10 vendors and community partners, we had about 127
Nice.
that came through. And when they said that, we would have about 500 attendants, we had over 7,000 people.
Wow.
And where was
came.
this? So where was the actual event? And how
So
do
it
you,
was in Plano at the Red Tail Pavilion off Spring Creek and 75.
and so does that event, how's that venue would, I mean, 500, 7,000, was it ready for that? And did you get a permit for that type, or is it pretty open?
Well, it was in a parking lot, right? So there was an amphitheater. That's where the performers were, but it was in a parking lot. Because if you look at like the Pista Sanayan layout, right? Imagine where those vendors are in the back. It's actually separated from there, right? And so where the parking lot is where most of the people were at. But a lot of people came and gone, right? So this year we had over 10,000 people that came, but there was a lot of people that couldn't even come because they said that the parking was so full that they just drove off. So next year we're going to have it in a bigger venue because we graduated from this one. But I keep telling them that when I describe, Seward Park, I'm like, that's what I'm looking for, is where all the vendors are in the back, the attendees in the middle, and the performers in the front.
You keep everybody all in the same area. Yeah.
Exactly. Right.
Wow, that's awesome.
Bro,
So
that's what I mean, you just took me for a crazy ride from June last year to this year, and just an amazing adventure off a calling, just as a feeling, just a gut feeling, a prophetic religious gut feeling that when it calls, you got to go. And actually my family moved here last year also, around, like my wife was here, I think around when did you say June
21st.
June 21st.
June 21st? I think that's around when she landed here.
Oh wow.
And I drove, and then I was staying in Renton at a because I had a few things that I was going to end up driving my truck down. My oldest still had a debut to go to, and I was like, man, you can't not go to that one. And then we drove down here on July 4th, and that's basically how long we've been here. But my wife was already in the new house around that time, and I think that's around the same time. But my story here, as far as getting here and just kind of just settling down, is much different than how yours kind of just took off. You guys went 100 miles an hour here, although like life over there back in Washington, you're still staying busy. It sounded like Abby was still very busy also with her career and everything like that. And we, on our end, we wanted to kind of slow everything down because I've already got 3 kids. One's an adult, but for y'all were still, you wanted to just do a linear type of a move, just to where I want to keep moving in the same type of a path. And then when you guys got down here, it sounds like it not only went like this, it went and now here you guys are. And wow, what a thing to kind of just walk into. So the guy that invited you and you had lunch with, he came from, was it the Clubhouse, right? Is that what he said?
Yeah, we met him at Clubhouse in 2020.
And he set you up, boy. He said, we going to a speaking part. Then he said, let's sit at this bubble tea place here and plan out a community center. Wow.
Well, no, he introduced it. So that was Danny. Danny introduced us to Mark. Okay. And even Danny had no idea what was going on. Like, everybody in the table were looking at each other and was like, are we really doing this? Like, is this really happening? Because we were there for 2 hours.
And they're locals.
They're locals, yeah.
And they know the need in the area. So having been around these guys, the Pinoys around here, because one of the things that I actually want, since I've seen onesie twosies. There's a place over here in Fort Worth, a Filipino store. They're
Which
called
one is it?
It's Van Tran.
Oh, I heard about that.
Yes,
a Vietnamese guy owns that.
A Vietnamese guy, and I think his wife is Filipina, or something like that, right? But I mean, it's the one that I cling to because I see Pinoys over there, and I see there's one guy, there's one family in my bowling league that's Filipino, and but those are the only ones, and I see like what your friend said, they come and go. They're kind of disappear. I try to get invited to certain things, and there's no community center, and that's what I found out about here in Texas. I don't see a lot of community centers. There's a lot of church, and there's there's a lot of church groups, but there is no community centers that you go to. We're very used to that as far as as an inner city type of a thing. But as far as Asian, like the other Asian cultures around and Asian groups around here,
Filipino Asian groups. So
and DF Dub though too, man.
Yeah,
as big as
I could see it being kind of like separated and stuff like that out there because it's like you said, it's so big, right?
All right.
And the different communities all kind of cling to whatever they know, whoever they know. Right. The neighborhoods being built here. It's like, oh, I grew up with this family. I'm gonna stick with this family, and don't even branch out. I see that a lot in Filipino communities, actually, like in families altogether. They only support who they want to support, if they have some kind of connection.
Yeah,
they're not going to support another Filipino that's out here doing their thing. They're like, nah, I'd rather not. I was like, why? Get to branch out a little bit.
It's crazy. People. It is. You're absolutely. Even in restaurants where you're sitting there, it's like, hey, there's a new restaurant down the street. It's like, is it good? And then they'll sit there and critique right off the bat rather than celebrate. It's like, hey, one of our folks is actually trying to do something from the community. Now, but what I was saying though, Conrado, is that so my wife is Lao, and it's a huge community over here, mainly because of the temples, the Watts that they have there. There's one over there, and there's one I believe in Irving. There's like 2 or 3 over here. There's a big one in Roanoke. Oh no, not Roanoke, but Rockwall.
Oh, really?
Yeah, big one in Rockwall. So that's how they keep their community together. And there's I think the churches, at least with the Filipino churches, or predominantly Filipino churches, they try to get things together. But that is one of our things. That is one of our shortcomings as a culture, to where we are pretty cliquish, and there's a weird little thing there. But it took the next generation. Not not the OGs or anything like that. It took the next generation. That's like, no, we got this, man. Kudos to you in such a short time. I mean, it's its second year now. Palenque is was LSP's second year.
Second year.
Amazing.
I bet the
So
community down there was waiting for something big like this to happen.
they
Someone to
have
just
been.
take
There's so
in
much angst.
charge, right? And big ups to you for doing that, man. That's awesome.
So with a lot of the folks kind of like in the area that we live at, and I'm going to
Mhm.
ask you a little bit on how's, because I don't venture out that way as often as I really should. So yeah, and to shake some hands. I want to know a little bit more about Plano and just generalities. But over here where I'm at, I'm northwest Fort Worth, which is basically, it's a smaller growing town of Hazlet. And a lot of people that are in my neighborhood, in this community itself, brand new community, of like, I think there's like 300-400 homes in this community. Majority of them are from out of town.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of Seattle, there's a lot of Cali, there's Minnesota for some reason, and there's, you know, Arizona, and even some, and a lot of Europeans also coming over, Middle Easterners. But that's when people ask me, so how is it? You know, when you have that little, you know, this of what we know of Texas, right? Of what Seattleites know of Texas. So how is it? Is it like this? Is it like that? And it's like, it's such a hybrid right now.
Mm-hmm.
This area is such a hybrid just because you've got all these other towners, and you also have these folks coming in that are like, you know what, this isn't like home. There's certain things that we are going to carry over here as far as kind of just this need of just community, because back in Washington, you know, we were, you know, thick as thin, and we everybody kind of just grew around each other.
Yep.
Seattle was such a small place that just with friends wise, you know, you were like one degree of separation at that
Yeah.
point, right? But over here, like you're saying, it's like with DF Dub, the way it is, as big as it is, and all, you've got all these smaller, you know, suburbs and everything like that. I think it is ready for that connection, especially with the people from, you know, especially yourself and some Cali folks coming over here. And you know, it's thick in Cali, or with the Filipino culture. So once they get over here, they kind of want that, and we can, you know, I think we can definitely offer a lot of that over here. And I think and that's what your group is doing right now as far as growth. That's awesome to hear, man. That's amazing. I didn't know that's what you guys are doing.
Yeah, I wouldn't say like accidentally walked into it. I think we divinely, walked into it.
Yeah. No, that's got to be it. That's got to be it.
Mhm.
Just because it all just kind of just boom, boom, boom in such a short time. I mean, you're 2 events in.
Yeah.
You're 2 huge events in. And you guys, and I'm sure you didn't even think about this as something that you were going to be doing when you guys moved over. It was going to be Pixel Parlor and you know, your real estate business. But then now here you are. You're in the middle. And that's I saw the coverage, the interview, or at least that piece that they did. I forget which publication it was. They had you guys on video and you guys talking about it a little bit. But let's take a step back. Other than going 100 miles an hour, like running through the woods, have you settled down, and now you're actually like one of the main faces in the DFW area as far as the Filipino uprising of wanting to do something like this for the community center. Is your group big? Is your circle big here now, or are you just kind of keeping it pretty small here? Are you guys, have you built a big foundation here now in a year?
I wouldn't say that we built a big foundation, but I'm starting to get familiar with the tita and tito leaders.
Okay.
Right. But then I also started preaching at a Filipino church plant. So
church plant.
I preach in Frisco. There's a church plant in Frisco. There's a church plant in Greenville, Texas. That's like northeast. So that's like really out there. But I guess there's a lot of Filipinos that migrate over there because they built a hospital in a Kroger's. Right?
What?
Yeah.
Kroger's. I think that's where Raymond gets his pumpkins at.
That's
Kroger's.
That's my
Fred
pumpkin
Meyer's.
patch. That's my pumpkin patch. So
and then the other church is in Forney Heath area, so a little bit past Rockwall.
Okay.
So those are so it's like a kind of like a diamond.
Okay.
And so it's not like big yet, but it's not that I'm trying to keep it small, right? It's whoever wants to be a part of the movement. It's like open arms, right? Like we want all the Filipinos to be involved.
Yeah, as we should.
Right. The way we see it is we want to have a basketball court, because even the Filipino community centers in Seattle is not going to be as elaborate as what we want. We want
Mm-hmm.
to have a basketball court because we all know that Filipinos love basketball,
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
for sure.
right? We
Start with.
want we want to
Hmm.
have a like classes where you could learn either Filipino dance, Filipino martial arts, Filipino language in Alibata, like the writing,
Hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
We want to have an area, almost like a co-working space for the different nonprofit organizations.
Mm-hmm.
Like, for example, one of them that we're good friends with is Hungry Free Philippines,
Okay.
right? And we want to be able to have like balikbayan boxes. So what, it's like a food drive or a clothing drive where people could donate to the Filipino Community Center, and then we take that and send it off to the Philippines to go clothe and feed the poor, right? Um,
Wow, that
so
sounds like
yeah.
a whole mission that you guys are trying to start in a positive way because we need that, right? Everybody to come together, help out what's going on in the Philippines because, it's still a third world country, right?
Mhm.
And we still need to bring back some of our heritage back here, especially where you guys are at such a big place, right? Like you said, with basketball communities, learning how to speak the language, the arts, the dances, Alibata, all that stuff, man. And I think that's a great idea that you guys are pushing that agenda over there, man. That's dope.
So is this what's the group? So I know you guys came together. I'm gonna just call it the bubble tea group right now, but it's just now now you guys are together. Is there an actual like what is the foundation? What is the group right now that is actually trying to move this forward?
So it's called PACE, which is Philippine American Community Endeavors.
Okay.
And then Lone Star Palenque is the event that PACE throws. So
Okay.
we actually we have like a bunch of lawyers on. It's weird. We have a bunch of lawyers, real estate, finance, business owners in the group, like young professionals,
Wow.
right? And so one of the lawyers, they're drafting up our bylaws and to make it legit, right? With
Mm-hmm.
the 501c3 and possibly 501c2.
Okay.
So then that way we could start, because one of the things we want to do is also buy real estate.
Yeah.
When families come here, like the immigrant, how do you say that? They
The migrants.
they migrate.
The
They
migrant.
migrate
Yeah.
over here, immigrant. So they migrate here from the Philippines. Is like that would be nice if we could have houses for low income, uh, for these
Transitional homes
Philippine
type of things.
transitional
Yeah,
homes,
yeah,
right?
yeah. No, that's a
And
great
then
idea.
That is a
um,
great idea.
you know what I mean? And so anything like what can we do? We're always like thinking of like newer ideas, what the older generation would normally shut down. The younger generation, we're thinking like, okay, what else can we do?
Hmm.
Yeah, no, I see that. I see it because the much respect with that train of thought to begin with, as far as like with our older generation. But I think there is also there to a certain extent there's a shortcoming there because there's sometimes technology gets in the way, sometimes crowdsourcing gets in the way, sometimes just that confidence of intermingling with others that are not the same as us gets in the way because they only would want to work in a community of Filipinos. And after a while, when you run into a roadblock of certain things, you just kind of stop, and that's when you tell other people, it's like, no, that's not going to work. But then
Yeah.
you yourself, knowing, like, coming from from Washington State, and a lot of these guys come from Cali, a lot of this stuff is built on just community, period, and it doesn't need to extend past it doesn't need to stay within Filipino community. We've got a lot of people that actually love Filipino community.
Mm-hmm.
That's why you work with them. I saw on the Palenque the Instagram. I mean, you have a lot of these vendors. They're not. I mean, they're not all Filipinos,
Yep,
and
you're right.
a lot of them aren't. Period. And we love that type of food. And this is the community now. We are
Mm-hmm.
Filipinos that love other communities to be with us, but at the same time, we can still be driven to create a community for ourselves to help our own community. And like how you're doing right now with that vision of just a small thing to where it's like, okay, at least the Filipinos can get the Pinoys can have a basketball court. We'll name it after, you know, a certain Filipino, and like maybe the the Manny Pacquiao basketball court or something like that. But it gets things going, right? So we all got and going back to my the point that I'm trying to make. I think the generations we're leveling up every single time.
Mm-hmm.
And with you, with just the young professionals, you shaking hands, getting yourself out, and understanding how just community is, period. and also in sales, one of the toughest jobs out there. Um, it's nice to get, you know, your foot in the door with a lot of these things. Yeah, now he said lawyers, so you know the bylaws and everything like that as far as what's going down. I think this is in very much good hands. Um, that's awesome, man. I didn't know. I'm glad you hit me up, but it's still at the same time, it's still not a DF Dub resident. So I'd love to love to talk to, and I'd love to spread it in. I'm pretty sure we can share this eventually with the rest of the group, and again, we'd be very, very happy and enthusiastic, like very enthusiastic right now to actually help out in whatever we can do to keep pushing the word out there and help y'all out.
Yo, for real, I am excited about it. Just hearing it for the first time. And, I'm willing to do whatever I could do to help build a community outside of Seattle. Especially has to do with the Filipino community, because I know how tough it is out here just to get people together.
Yeah.
And it brings me back to a conversation that I had with my mom. And it's also about social working too. She goes, man, there's a lot of Filipinos out here, but they don't want to help other Filipinos out. And she brings out like the other people like Somalians and stuff like that who be in the social working, and the community. And they're willing to get them in housings, and willing to find them jobs or whatever they could do, find like ways to get them food for their kids and all that stuff. And when it comes down to other Filipinos, they'll just shun you and look at you some kind of ways like you should already know what to do, right? I work this hard, you should work just as hard as me to get whatever kind of information I need. And my mom's like, nah, we're the same, we got the same struggle, we're coming from the same place, look at me as an equal. Like, hey, we should be helping each other out right here in this moment instead of you telling me what to do and like how it's not going to work, and it's just crazy that hearing it from my mom, who's first generation Filipino and still having to deal with it now, because she's dealing with people probably my age or a little bit older, and they don't even want to help them out. And that's a shame to me. And I'm glad that you guys are actually finding a solution out there in our community for that.
No, I love it, man. I love it. So what's going on right now? Palenque just ended a little bit earlier this month. What's Pace doing right now?
So right now, we are working on trying to get sponsors for next year.
Mm-hmm.
So HEB was actually one of our sponsors this year. Last year we had Raising Cane's, but we're also talking to Woodforest Bank.
Okay.
Right, their community outreach. We're talking to First United Bank. I met the VP over here in Plano, their headquarters over here. She's Filipina, so when she heard what we were doing, she's like, "Let me, get you connected with the cultural, diversity department." And then I know a guy who works at Prosperity Bank, right? So he does community outreach too. So I'm looking for all the people who do community outreach, because we always want to have the event free for the public, and we want to keep the cost down for the Filipino business owners, right? So I actually did follow-ups with the vendors, and a lot of them were happy. Some of them made in a day what they would usually make like 2 weeks to a month at their own, place, right? At either the restaurant or their businesses. And then some even told me that the last year's Palenque actually jump-started their business, so they were able to come back this year. Right?
Wow. Dope.
And our whole thing was like, how are we going to give visibility to the Filipino businesses around here? Right. And then what we would do too is we would hold meetings at different Filipino restaurants to show support, put them on social media, anything that, we could do. And then actually this year before the Palenque, there's a Filipino director here named Danny Aguilera who came out with a movie called Take Me to Banawe. Okay. So we helped him with his 2 movie screening, one in February that did so well that he did another one in June, because the Filipinos were like, okay, let's do it again. So Miss Avery Bishop, who was Miss Texas 2022, so she's actually part of our team that helped us push. So like she had a fashion show called Catwalk for Cause, because her mom runs a nonprofit called Tulong Foundation. So they help kids in the Philippines with like schooling and food and clothing. Different events. So throughout the year, we try to see what's going on in January, what's going on in February, just throughout the year.
Yeah.
And then whatever that we can, we'll try to help spread the word or attend the event. anything that we could do to push it and help them with their awareness. So that's our thing, is it's not just like a once a year thing and then that's it, but it's like,
Mhm.
okay, what is going on throughout the whole year with these different Filipino organizations, and let's see how we could get involved or help,
Yeah.
even if it's like, something small.
No, I am like my wheels are turning every single time, for every single thing that you're mentioning right now. My wheels are turning on that thing, and I can see, it seems easy. In all honesty, as you're going through it and coming from Washington and how things are it just organically grows over there because community period wants to support.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the what you're saying right now is just you're at the point where you're trying to just create community to where they want to support.
Yep.
So I think once that's established, it's gonna be easy. And you guys are well on your way. You're a year young, or a little over a
Yeah.
year young. And imagine what you guys just take a look at what you guys have accomplished. And I
Yeah.
think that's amazing, man. So it sounds like it's moving towards the right direction. Palenque sounds like that's the vessel that's gonna get, and it's a hell of a vessel, because if it does at one point meets, and I can see it surpassing with the population of Filipinos around here and how big the DFW area is, I can see it surpassing how Pista is. So wow, okay.
Yeah.
So where can I want to be sensitive to your time here and conscious. We're running at about close to an hour here, so I want to make sure you get whatever you need to get out there, as far as just where we can find you, where we can help out with this particular effort. Where can people? I think I saw somewhere where if you're out of town and if you want to support something like this, there's a donation page and everything. Just like anything helps. I mean, as big as the community itself, I mean, even as big as Texas itself, if people are hearing this in Houston, San Antonio, come on up. Let's do something big over here,
Mm-hmm.
because that's what the thing is. Where can we find you? How can we help? How can we, push this thing and keep this thing moving forward for pace?
Well, the main like way of communication is on Instagram.
Okay.
So it's at Lone Star Palenque would be the handle.
Okay. I'll make sure to have all that stuff up on the screen and everything like that after we cut this thing up. So it's at Lone Star Palenque. Is there a site right now, or is there?
We took it down and
Okay.
we're gonna put it back up. But on Instagram, there's Linktree.
Okay.
So then it will take you like to donation pages and that. And then
And that
if
goes
people
to
are
your
interested,
group. I
yeah,
don't want to push a donation page that doesn't go to another. That goes to another. I want that goes to your group. That's going to help this particular effort.
yeah, it goes to
Okay.
our group. And then also what is it? I mean, same thing, Facebook, but it's pretty
Okay.
much just a
Insta.
few of us that run the sites. And then if people are interested, they could give us their email, and then we'll send them either like a sponsor package or a vendor package for next year, right? But the sponsor package is like if people want to sponsor it, because one thing we want to do too is we're trying to figure out how do we say, like, if you donate this much, you're going to have a brick like with your name.
Oh,
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah.
we want to have a wall where, they have like minimum sponsor for the building and they could see their name. And then obviously like the bigger sponsors will have like a whole wall to them.
Yeah.
And then
Yeah.
even the bigger ones will have rooms, like conference rooms.
yeah, that's dope though. I think what he's doing with that
Could
is
you hear me?
dope.
Yeah. Yeah.
That
So
would definitely have me involved and want to have the sponsorship, especially if I could have my name on the wall or just even a brick on the floor, whatever, just to say, hey,
Yeah.
I'm part of this community. I donated to a pretty awesome cause, which is bringing the Filipino community together, man. I'm all up for that.
So okay.
Could you hear me?
I can hear you just fine, bro. So I'm going to tell you something real quick before we hop out here, Conrado. And
Okay.
what I wanted to actually get across, and this is all very much resonating with me, mainly because my grandfather, my grandfather and his two brothers came here, and when they immigrated to the U.S., they ended up in Wapato, Washington, by Yakima and everything like that, right? And they worked farms. during that time, there was also a lot of Filipinos that were working in the farms, in the fields, and everything. So eventually, my grandfather's brother got so he started seeing the community itself in Yakima and Wapato, just a lot of Filipinos, but we just couldn't really come together. So he actually was one of the founders, if not the founder, of the community center in Yakima. So
Whoa.
and he
Nice.
built that up, and so that's why I was like, okay, this is crazy that you're actually like doing this right now, because it's very possible. Again, once you build that community, I think it's gonna be easy. So again, we want to be very much involved. I'll make sure to get all your information up, after we get off the line here, and I want to check in with you, man. I want to do this thing, maybe like, if there's an event, if you're going to another restaurant or anything like that, if we can get you on for like maybe or maybe if you can like send me a video or something like that, if schedule conflicts, and say, hey, this is where we're going, we'll drop it on the Wuz Good podcast. We'd love to support in any way, man. And I'd actually like to connect with you when I'm in the area.
Yeah, no, that's I was gonna say the same thing. All right, maybe like what Arlington is like middle point, huh?
Possibly, yeah, because yeah. I mean, I get around to the Carrollton, Arlington area. I make my way to Dallas quite a bit also, but it's just not in specific. We're still, such a big place
It
to
is.
explore, and I don't have a particular dart in the wall. Um, but we'll see, And I definitely want to connect. I want to meet the folks around that area, and in this particular media space that we have, we'd love to support.
Yeah, no, same thing, man. Like it, with what you're doing, I want to connect you with like all the different Filipino entrepreneurs here that you could
Mhm.
interview,
Yeah.
and then that way it could go out to their outlets.
Yeah, yeah. And I'd love to give them a voice in these particular areas, because it seems like everybody's kind of just hunched up here. They're not
Mhm.
really getting their voices out there. So yeah, that's dope, man. All right, we're gonna go ahead and end this thing here
Oh,
for right now. Conrado, very much appreciate you just taking some time, sis. I appreciate you hopping on. And I'll have all the information out there for you guys after the set. Any last words, brother?
No, just thank you for having me, and I can't wait to actually meet up in person.
Yes, yes. Sounds good. All right. Peace out, y'all.
yo, we might have to run that back.